And then at the end of this session today, we're going to go ahead and answer any other questions that you all might have. All right, so again, thank you for joining us today. So this program, the Large Grant Development Opportunity, provides resources for teams pursuing and winning large interdisciplinary grant awards, such as, but not limited to, NIHP and U grants and National Science Foundation, Science and Technology Centers, or Engineering Research Centers. It does this through 3 avenues of support. First one is really helping you build your team and your ideas. The second one is to help you collect pilot data through pilot research opportunities. And the third one is helping you kind of finalize and polish your grant application before submitting it. And so with that, I'm really excited to welcome our Vice President for Research, David Schwebel, to tell us a little bit more about his vision for this program. So David, I'm going to turn it over to you quick.
Great. Thanks, Aaron, and thanks to all of you for joining. This is exciting. This is really an exciting opportunity for the University of Iowa to grow our large grants. We have created this with encouragement from the president and provost, and I think the whole leadership team here is excited about what can happen with us growing interdisciplinary grants. Few things you're going to hear about the phased approach, and Aaron has outlined it on this slide, that this opportunity is divided into 3 phases. And our goal is to help facilitate success. Everything you write, even the applications to get this funding, is designed to help you be successful so that the words you're putting on paper are not just used for our internal competition, but are actually used in the grant you submit to the funding agency. You'll find our answers to the FAQs are often, we'll work with you. We want to facilitate success here. We have to follow rules. We have to follow our budgetary requirements, but our goal is to make this as easy as possible for you to write what we recognize is an incredibly complex, long, complicated grant to get submitted and hopefully to be successful on. So we'll work with you if you have special situations. We're going to try to work with you. We want to be flexible. We want you to be successful. We do not want to be a barrier to our teams here at Iowa with external collaborators being successful in winning these grants. And you'll hear pieces of that throughout the presentation today. I'll make one last point. I wish we could fund every single application we get. We want everyone to be successful and to try. With that said, we won't fund everything, but we will fund a lot. We don't have exact numbers. We don't know how many applications we'll get, but we have money put aside to fund as many as we possibly can. So this is not an application where we're only going to have 1 or 2 winners. I expect we'll have several winners. Several teams will be formed, will receive funding in the 3 phases, and Aaron will describe phase 1, building the team, phase 2, conducting pilot research, phase 3, finalizing and getting the grant submitted. We are allowing, and this is the flexibility, and Aaron will go into details, we're allowing you to enter at any phase. And so you don't have to jump right in at phase 1. If you have a team formed, and you'll hear more about this, you'll be able to enter in phase 2 or phase 3, and that's our goal, is to help these grants get submitted and help these grants get successfully won at the University of Iowa. So I think I'll stop there. I'm excited to share this opportunity with you and for our team here in the Vice President's office to work with our teams so that we can be successful with the grants. Aaron, I'll turn it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. Appreciate that. All right, and so I want to remind everybody we're using the Q&A function today. So if you do have questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A and we will get to those at the end of the presentation. So as David said, this is an exciting new program. This is kind of the 3 phases laid out in a different way than the last slide. So I'll just quickly say, phase 1 is really focused on building that team and idea. As I said before, it's up to $10,000 to be able to do that. It's an 8-month award. And then, kind of what we anticipate with that phase 1 is, building a team, and I'll talk more about this later, but building an external advisory board and bringing them to campus. Phase 2 is going to be about refining that team and refining that idea. And conducting pilot research. This one's going to be up to $250,000. And I'll say, ask for what you need. It's up to $250,000. So if you don't need $250,000 and your project's more of $100,000, we would welcome those. We just encourage you to ask for what you need. These phase 2 awards are going to be a 22-month period. And then the phase 3 is going to be really about that grant submission. So how do we help you get that grant application to be the most competitive that we can before you submit it? And so with that, it's going to be up to $60,000, and that's going to be a 1-year award. And I'll go into more detail on each of these phases a little bit later, but this is kind of an overview. And as David said, I'll remind you, if you are ready for phase 2, don't submit a phase 1 application. You tell us kind of where you're at in this process, what you need, and how we can help you be successful, and we will entertain all of those applications. And I'll just say also, feel free to reach out to David or myself if you have questions. We'd love to chat with you about this. If you're going to be entering at a later phase, reach out to us. We'll kind of talk to you and help you craft the application to be fitting this program. And then, yeah, phase 3 is about submitting that proposal. And so I want to start by acknowledging that all applications are accepted and encouraged. However, we do have some funding priority areas that we'd like to see applications in, but I want to reiterate, all applications are accepted and encouraged. So if you don't see yourself somewhere on this screen, don't worry. So these priority areas include projects that are innovative, interdisciplinary, and incorporate researchers from across campus, multiple colleges, multiple departments and units. Further, projects are encouraged that concentrate on the university's distinctive collaborative opportunities, which are brain science and mental health. The next one is cancer research and patient care. And then the third one is writing and communication. Sorry about that. And also projects that focus on priorities to our state and country, for example, rural health. And then we are defining large grants as those that are $7 million or more. However, we understand that this might not fit everybody's disciplinary background. So again, we encourage you to submit applications that are appropriate for your discipline. If, let's say, for example, a large grant in your area, let's just say humanities is $1 million. We'd welcome that application. Just tell us why this is a large grant for your discipline. So don't be too worried about that, but we are looking for large grants that kind of fit where you're used to in your disciplinary area. And finally, we'd love to see new projects and collaborations emerge from this opportunity. So new teams with new ideas. In terms of who's eligible, this is actually really great and exciting about this program. There's not too many restrictions on eligibility or applying to it. The PI and the team must have the background, training, and expertise to be able to plan and carry out the project. We do anticipate projects are going to be led by faculty. However, with strong justification, applications are going to be accepted from anybody as long as you have the experience and expertise to submit the applications. Further, there are no restrictions on how many applications you may be part of. So if you're part of 3 different teams in 3 different phases, that's great. If you're part of 3 teams in one different phase or in one phase, that's great. We just want to see the strongest teams possible submit applications. So we encourage you to talk with your colleagues and participate on teams where it makes sense for you. And finally, external collaborators are allowed and encouraged because we realize that probably the strongest applications are going to be interinstitutional teams. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. So when submitting the applications, I just wanted to quickly talk about kind of the review process and what we're expecting. Your applications will be reviewed by a panel of senior research leaders from across campus. The review criteria will include A through H here, so I'll quickly go through those. A is really about, is it well-written, innovative, and significant? B is there societal and scientific impact of the project? C, are you applying to an appropriate phase given the scope of your project? D is the team idea project interdisciplinary? E is really focused on, is there a plan for capturing those large grants? So really that's a goal of this. There needs to be an outcome, something for you to go after when this is all said and done. F, does the team have a track record of success with collaborative work? This doesn't mean together. It can be together, but it's just you have a track record of working collaboratively with others in interdisciplinary work. G is kind of focused on the budget and does it make sense for what you're proposing? And is it strongly justified? And then H is preferred. And as I mentioned earlier, we are accepting all applications, but there is going to be a point about preferred, and that's does it align with the university's distinctive collaborative opportunities or the state and national needs? Next, each application will receive at least 3 reviews, including a score and written comments, which will be forwarded to the Vice President for Research for final funding determination. So if you've got an idea, if you don't have an idea, if you want to meet folks on campus and kind of discuss ideas, the Research Development Office is here to help. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but we have some networking and team building events. And then I'll also say Pivot's a really great tool. You'll hear me talk about Pivot a lot. It's great for finding funding opportunities, which can help you with that kind of targeted opportunity that you're focusing on, or for identifying folks on campus. So you can always put in a keyword of an area you're looking for. If your team is missing somebody, let's just say in biology, you can type in biology and it'll give you a list of folks that you might want to reach out to and chat with. If you need any help, you can always reach out to the Research Development Office, and our email is vpr-rdo@uiowa.edu. And so in terms of networking and team building events, we've got 3 scheduled, kind of focused on those distinctive collaborative opportunities. The first one's going to be about brain science. That's Tuesday, November 4th, 1 to 3. Next one's going to be on cancer research. That's Thursday, November 11th, 10 to 12. And then we got one on writing communication, Friday, November 21st. So if you sign up for those, it's going to ask you a few questions, kind of what's your interest in the topic? What might you be looking for in a collaborator? What might you offer a collaborator? And then we'll use that to kind of help guide the conversations during these events. So fill out the form, let us know your interests, what you might be looking for, and tell us you're going to come join us. And then we'll have a couple of hours of some lively discussions on these 3 dates. You can click on the links. These slides will be sent out later. If you got your phone handy, you can always do the QR code over there on the right. But these are really opportunities for you to meet folks on campus who are interested in this topic and looking for folks to collaborate with. So we're about to get into the details of, all the different phases, but I want to let you know applications are going to be due January 31st, the next few years. So they're always going to be due on January 31st. First one's 2026, next one 2027, 2028, and 2029. You'll see in a second here why they're always going to be due on that date, but that's what to be looking for over the next few years. We do have a website for this page. The frequently asked questions takes you there. This link also takes you there, and it's essentially the same presentation you're seeing today, just a little bit differently formatted. So details by phase. So phase 1, eligibility. All interdisciplinary research teams with a lead PI at the University of Iowa, as long as you have the background and expertise to lead the project, you're eligible to submit. It's $10,000 up to $10,000. The award period is going to be March 1st through October 31st of the same year. So that's going to be 8 months. You submit your application in January. You'll find out in February if you're moving forward or not. And then March 1, the project period starts. What we require for that phase 1 application is just 2 pages. We're asking you to use the fonts that we mentioned here. But that first page is really going to be about describing your research area and your topic. What are you up to? What are you doing? You do get an optional second page, or you do get a second page, and that's to list out the collaborators that you already have. The team does not need to be finalized at phase 1. We anticipate that the teams will kind of be built out during this process, but tell us who's part of your team now. That can be University of Iowa folks, and that can also be your external collaborators. And then in terms of the budget, all program costs are allowable with appropriate justification. So in terms of phase 1, the goals for phase 1 include, forming that team and identifying somebody to lead that team. That's critical. Next, identifying future external funding opportunities as your target for this. Building an external advisory committee, 3 to 5 folks from outside the University of Iowa, and then bring them to campus and hold a meeting. We really want folks to come to Iowa City, experience our city, our culture, and the university, and learn a little bit more about what makes us so great. And then we're going to ask folks who get a phase 1 to participate in a symposium probably in the next year or so to share about what they're up to and let folks know across campus what the interest is in certain topics. So the deliverables for phase 1 is we want to know kind of who's on your advisory board, when did you all meet, and what were the key outcomes of that meeting. Love to see a comprehensive roster of your research team, including the external advisory board and who's leading your project. A funding strategy for, this is the target. We're going to go after an NIH P30. This is the due date. This is the topic. this is what we're going after. And you can have multiple opportunities. I mean, we just want to see at least one, but sometimes it's nice to have some options there. So if there's a couple of different areas that you can go towards, we'd love to know what your funding strategy might be here. And then finally, a white paper on the current state of the field. So whatever your topic is, tell us what the current state is, and then some potential pilot projects to help you achieve your goals. And this should be focused on, 22-month period, which is phase 2. So in terms of phase 2, again, the eligibility is the same as phase 1. If you have the experience and expertise to lead the project, and the lead is here at the University of Iowa, you're eligible. Funding is up to $250,000, and I'll reiterate, ask for what you need. Doesn't have to be $250,000, but just strongly justify what you're asking for. And then the award period for this one is going to be March 1st again, but then 22 months later, December 31st of the next year. And so again, everything's due January 31st. All projects start on March 1st. And phase 2 proposal requirements, we'd love to see what you did for phase 1. So those deliverables that were listed for phase 1, you'll submit those. If your team has grown or changed, we'd like to see an updated roster of the research team, your external advisory board, and again, who's leading the project. If you've found new funding opportunities to target or still the same ones, send us the list of what you're shooting for, what the timelines are, and the submission deadlines. And then specific aims or other short introductory section of the grant. So it doesn't have to be specific aims. NSF, for example, does the project summary page, something along those lines. It will be dependent on what the agency you're targeting asks for. But again, this isn't about just providing something to us. We really want what you submit to us to be able to use in your grant application. So we really want to be efficient with your time. So specific aims are kind of introductory section to that proposal. So continuing the proposal requirements, so up to 5 pilot projects in phase 2, 1-page summary for each of the pilot projects, kind of what is the focus, who's going to be leading it, some background materials, and what sort of research methods will be applied to that. You have an optional second page here for each of those proposed pilot projects, and that can include figures, tables, or references. Again, all program costs are allowable with appropriate justification. We will note that large subawards to external institutions are discouraged. However, consultant fees are fine. And with all of that said, some money can go outside the University of Iowa. We understand that those teams, the most competitive teams, are going to be inter-institutional. But the majority of the funding should really be used and expensed here at the University of Iowa. And then just one thing to note, whatever agency you are targeting, when you submit the materials for your application, just use the required fonts, margins, and formatting from your institution or from the agency that you're targeting. So the goals for phase 2 are really about collecting preliminary data through conducting those pilot projects, and that's to help you build that competitive application. And so using that data then to submit and or publish peer-reviewed journal articles or conferences, but taking that data and publishing with it and showing that you can work together as a team, and then you can kind of use that to really build the case for your larger grant submission later. Talk to your program officer. We'd love to see you talk to your program officer and kind of talk about the programmatic fit of your project and how it fits with their mechanism, and kind of see what you can learn from discussing the project with a program officer. And again, we'd like to see you convene your external advisory board. Of course, we'd love to have you bring them to Iowa City again, but there's a little bit of flexibility in this one. You can do quarterly via video conference if that works best. But we would love to see folks come to Iowa City. We think there's something really special about town. And then in terms of the deliverables, so what are you going to deliver at the end of this project? Again, summaries of your external advisory board meetings. Who was there? What were the key outcomes? When did you meet? If you've submitted publications, we'd like to see those, even if they're still under consideration. We would like to see those submitted. Some drafts of key grant proposal sections. So that can include leadership structure. If you have any sort of proposed cores or projects, what sort of available resources, so like facilities page, and then advisory board biographies as well. It's important that you also are able to delineate the leadership structure of your grant, who's leading it, who's leading which portions of it, what sort of cores or projects will be part of your proposal, who's going to be writing it, any sort of deadlines that need to be maintained. So kind of a plan for putting that together. And then we move on to phase 3. So phase 3 is really about polishing and finalizing your proposal. Again, eligibility is the same as phase 1 and 2. You can have up to $60,000 for this portion. And again, the project started on March 1st and go through February 28th of the subsequent year. So you get 12 months or 1 year for phase 3. What we would expect to see in a phase 3 application is all of those deliverables from phase 2 that we just talked about, a list of who's leading the project and team members, including folks from outside the university, if there are ones. Again, what's your target opportunity? What's the timeline? What's the deadline? Who is your advisory board? An updated specific games page. So hopefully now you've got pilot data, you've really thought about your project. So give us an updated specific games or introductory section to your proposal. All program costs are allowable with appropriate justification, with that note that large subcontracts outside the university are discouraged.
All right, for the delay here, it looks like we've, Aaron's frozen. Give him a minute here to get reconnected.
Yeah, and if not, I can pick up. Let's wait just 1 minute. Mike, do you know where he stopped? I have to admit I was typing answers to some of the questions and not listening exactly where he stopped.
Sorry, David, I walked away to check on his office. It looks like he had to log out and he'll come back in and get the slides back up. So we'll have to wait for the
Okay.
slides anyway.
Apologies. I'm going to keep typing answers to some of the great questions in the box. So expect answers to be coming, and we will answer many of those questions live as well. Maybe I'll go ahead while we're waiting and handle some questions. So starting at the top, can a postdoc submit a proposal as a PI? Postdocs can. We're not going to be prohibitive, but I have to admit that I think most funded proposals will be led by faculty members. I think postdocs are likely to be somewhat more successful as a team member rather than as a lead proposer. Second question, will reviews be blinded? In other words, is the research team de-identified to internal reviewers? Good question, good thought. Part of our criteria will be track record of the scientists, track record of their science and of their ability to work on teams, not necessarily this team, but of their interdisciplinary experience. I think it would not be realistic for us to be able to judge these in a blinded or masked way, but we will at least talk about that on our end and consider if that's possible and do so if we think it's possible. I see Aaron is back. Aaron, you want to pull up the slides again? I'm handling a few of the questions as you went on and off.
Thank you for that. Yeah, a bunch of my windows closed. I will.
Let me answer one more question while we get organized. So the next question is, how do research cores fit into the model? Absolutely essential. I expect many, not all of these grants will involve our research cores on campus. They could be funded, certainly in phase 2 where pilot research is done. I could see funding towards cores. I could see cores being a part of large center grants, and they form a key part of the grant. So actually, absolutely, research cores will be part of most. I'm going to hesitate, not all, because there may be some that involve different kinds of science, but many of these proposals will involve research cores. Aaron, are you ready to go again? And we will answer the rest of the questions before we're done here.
Thank you so much for jumping in, David. I'm not quite sure where I cut off. I'm assuming it was this slide.
Yeah, about the middle of this slide. But maybe you start towards the start of this slide.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for understanding there. Sometimes things happen. So for phase 3, what do we expect when you're submitting an application? Again, those deliverables from phase 2 that we asked for. A list of your team members, including University of Iowa folks and folks outside the University of Iowa, and importantly, who's leading the project. What are you targeting? Is it the P30? Is it U01? You tell us what you're targeting. Again, it could be multiple opportunities. Who's on your advisory board? So an updated roster of your advisory board, an updated specific aims page. So again, now you've collected some pilot data. Let's update your specific aims or your introductory section to your proposal. And then, of course, a budget. How do you plan on spending that $60,000? So what are the goals of phase three? Again, want you to keep meeting with your external advisory board. Let us know about kind of how that works out. You can employ folks to help you put together your grant proposal. So I think really this is the key of this. How do you put together that competitive package that you're going to submit? Is it some help with some literature review? Is it help with the graphic design of key figures? Do you need help putting together the whole package, collecting bio sketches, getting it into, let's say, Cayuse to submit? Do you need editing assistance? So really, it's what do you need to help you put together the most competitive application that you feel that you can put together? Love to see you meet with program officers. So again, reach out to them, talk about the programmatic fit of your proposal. And then, yeah, you can also pay for advisors. So internal, external reviews. So external reviews you can pay for. Hire some folks who are outside the University of Iowa who are key players in your field and get some eyes on your proposal to see how you might be able to make it more competitive. And then what do we ask for when phase three is done? We'd love to see the grants that you submitted. And I know you're going to submit a bunch of them. So with that, now I think I'm done and we're back to questions. And I want to reiterate, David and myself are happy to answer questions after today. And here's our contact information for doing that. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing and then I don't know, David, you were doing a great job answering those questions. I don't know if I want to jump in there or just kind of let you keep doing that. Let me take a look.
I can do some more here. I've been typing in a lot of them. So let me handle a few of the quick ones. Can target grants be European or outside of the US? Sure, if it's justified and there's reason, we'd be happy to consider that. Who will be the reviewers for these grants? Will the teams get written feedback from the reviewers? Are there multiple cycles of this opportunity or just one cycle? Good. Reviewers will be senior leaders at the University of Iowa. Associate deans for research in the colleges will be approached and senior current leaders of like center type grants. We will purposefully get interdisciplinary reviewers. Will the teams get written feedback? Yes. There's going to be some written feedback. We will see how many applications on to determine how extensive that is, but I am dedicated to providing some written feedback. Absolutely. Are there multiple cycles of this opportunity? Right now, we're expecting 4 cycles, each deadline in January. So a deadline, the first deadline, as you heard, is this January 2026. So about 3 months from now. And then there will be, we expect deadlines in January 27, 28, and 29. It wouldn't make sense to apply for phase 1 in January of 2029. That's a long ways off. But we expect probably the later years will be for phases 2 and 3 primarily. We probably would expect phase 1 to be due in January of 26 or January of 27. You want to jump in, Aaron? Have you read one or should I keep going?
I can take one. So there's a question about, is there a consideration for additional funding to respond to reviewer critiques after the initial submission? This is covered in the frequently asked questions, but I'll say, yes, you could apply to phase 3 again. Kind of just justify what you would be using those funds for, how you would be responding to the critiques. So if you go through phase 1, 2, 3, you submit the application, you get feedback, you can apply to phase 3 again. We would just ask you to really strongly justify what those additional needs, what those additional funds would help you do.
Let's start at the top. So what if the applicant team thinks they are suitable for phase 2, but really they are more suitable for phase 1 or 3? How will the RDO determine the phases? In general, will there be some leeway on phase determination as the review process progresses? The phases are really different. We really expect phase 1 to kind of form your ideas in your team. Phase 2 is to collect the pilot data so that you have evidence for the grant submission that your team can do the work and has been successful doing the work. And phase 3 is to fund the work to get the grant out the door. So really, we're expecting you to know which phase you fit. And if you're not sure, you can consult with the RDO. They can help guide you. But you should know what you're going for, and your application is going to be very different for the 3 different phases.
I think my top is different than your top, David. So I'm maybe having some technical issues here, but I'm trying my best.
Okay.
I think there's a question here about, can you talk a little bit about the focus area of writing and communication? So to what extent are you interested in projects that focus on practical writing, communication skills, or research topics within fields of writing and communication? And I think the way I would answer this, David, jump in. What are you targeting, right? So the goal of this program is to allow you to put in a competitive application for whatever field you're targeting. So if you find funding opportunities out there in the field of writing and communication that would be large in your field, target your idea to match that. And so I don't think we really have any criteria on that other than, is there a large funding opportunity out there, and how does this application help you achieve winning that opportunity?
Yeah, that's great. I agree. I'm going to answer 2 questions that are somewhat related on funding. So one question, what sort of funding expenses would be expected for phase 3? Phase 3 is to get the grant out the door. It might be people that help organize your grant submission. It might be people setting deadlines. It might be people collecting bio sketches, collecting support letters. It might be people editing documents. It might be graphic artists creating figures for you. It might be reviewers reviewing your submission, either colleagues or firms that help you review and refine your submission before it goes to the federal agency. So those are the sorts of things we expect in phase 3. There may be another advisory group meeting. You may be flying collaborators in, so there may be some travel expenses as well for your group to get together and get the writing done and get the organization done. A related question was on, well, I've lost it, but oh shoot.
Is that the eligible expenses question, David?
Yes, well, yes, and salary. So that's right. Thank you, Aaron. So what's eligible? Anything that the university allows and that federal and state regulations allow are eligible for budgets. We do not expect faculty salary to be on these grants typically, but if you have specific justification for why it's needed, we would entertain the possibility. But it would be uncommon, and you might request faculty salary and we fund your proposal, but we take away the faculty salary amount. Salary for postdocs, yes. Students, yes. Research staff, yes. That would be more likely to be funded if justified, more common than faculty salary.
I'll take the next one here. There's a question about, do you need preliminary data for phase 1? No. Phase 1 is really about forming a team. So are there folks, do you have an idea? You just need an idea, and then phase 1 is really about building the team around your idea. So no preliminary data needed for phase 1.
Good. What about assistant professors applying? Do they have a realistic shot? Maybe, especially a more senior assistant professor could be the lead. Could assistant professors win large center grants as a PI? Maybe not common. Would assistant professors be really critical parts of a team that has a senior faculty member on as well? Definitely. I expect a lot of assistant professors will be involved in these proposals, will be perhaps leading cores of a large center grant. I think it's conceivable that assistant professors lead these grants and are successful, but I think it's more likely to be associate and full professors in most cases. Do you permit multi-PI plan if they're from different colleges and departments? Absolutely. Multiple PI, it could be from the same department or different departments and colleges. I think multi-PI makes sense in some cases. You want to justify it. But yes, again, our goal is to be facilitating. We want to win these grants as a university. So we will not be a barrier. If you have a good reason for multi-PI, we will be encouraging and supportive. There's a question, is there a handout that describes allowable expenses? For example, course buyouts or graduate student funding? I think we've answered that mostly. Course buyouts, that's kind of faculty salary. Again, unusual, not common, but if very well justified, we consider it. Graduate student funding, I think, yes, in many cases that would be appropriate if it's helping you win the grant.
There's a question about, do you want to see other university initiatives be involved as part of the plan, such as the Cancer Initiative or CSSI? I think we want to see all of campus involved with these. So if there's a team or a unit on campus that provides expertise to the topic, let's involve them. Let's also target those distinctive collaborative opportunities. So the Cancer Initiative, yes. I think it's all hands on deck for this.
Thanks. The next one I see on my list, how would you describe this initiative fits in with other major internal and funding initiatives from OVPR and elsewhere on campus like P3? How's it similar or different in types of proposals? So this initiative is really focused on large grant development. For those of you who are NIH world, we're thinking P&U grants. For NSF world, it's ERCs. There are DoD opportunities, and there may be others. But this is for us to get large interdisciplinary grants to this university as lead, probably in most cases in collaboration with investigators at other universities to support what we're doing. P3 potentially could fund that, but I don't see that as the main goal of P3. Other initiatives in the OVPR are more focused on individual research or on some multidisciplinary area efforts in certain topic areas. So, for example, social determinants of health, and I know Aaron's group is working on a cancer and precision medicine initiative. Those might jive. And so, Aaron, maybe you could talk about how the cancer and precision medicine might actually lead into this.
Great segue, David. Yes. So hopefully you've all heard within the last week or two that we're doing an ideas lab here in January. Applications are due October 31st of this month. And so really what the ideas lab is about is getting folks together in a room who may not have the opportunity to meet each other. So we're trying to get as vast of a range of disciplines as possible, get folks in a room for 3 days. And then brainstorm, come up with new ideas that wouldn't be possible unless you took 3 days out of your busy schedule to go and brainstorm with folks that you normally wouldn't interact with. And so that's January 12th to 14th. And so hopefully what you've got then is a team that's ready to apply for phase one, right? So you've got a team and you want to build out your idea and build an external advisory board. So the ideas lab will help you meet some folks, come up with an idea, and then propose it to the applications due January 31st as phase one. So kind of going back to the question that was earlier about, do you need preliminary data for phase one? Nope. So that's kind of ideas lab would help contribute to that. Then I'll also say there was a follow-up question, do you need preliminary data for phase two? I would answer no. Phase two is really about collecting that preliminary data. So no, you don't. But I'll go back to the ideas lab real quick. Great opportunity to meet folks around the cancer space. You do not need to have experience in cancer, precision medicine. You just need to have a curiosity and interest in learning from others and figuring out how you can apply your skills in unique and different ways. And then hopefully you would be eligible for a phase one application at that point.
Good. I see the next two on top for me are having to do the external advisory board. So let me see if I can answer those two. The first one, are groups directly applying for phase two expected to have a gathering symposium for the external advisory board? We'll work with you. If you're going directly into phase two, perhaps the advisory board meeting could be at the start of phase two with phase two money. So we're willing to work with you. You should justify that in your budget, but we're not going to require that you've done the typical phase one advisory board meeting if your team is ready for phase two. The related question, is an external advisory board mandatory, especially if we want to go directly to phase two? My experience with these sorts of grants is that an external advisory board is mandatory to win the grant. So I would, if you can justify that it's not required for the grant mechanism you're applying to, we're willing to listen to you. Again, we want to facilitate. We don't want to be a barrier. So if you think an advisory board isn't necessary, explain why. If you feel you have a team ready for phase two, but you don't have an advisory board organized yet, we can work with you. Put in your phase two application that you plan to create the advisory board, ideally list the members or the potential members, and that we could fund. So justify it. We're willing to talk to you before you submit if you're worried, but we will work with you. I think most of these large grants are going to have an advisory board from other universities involved in some way. Hopefully that answers that question.
I think you might have answered a third question with that one as well, David.
Okay, I'm not keeping up, so feel free to.
Yeah. So that was kind of about what do you hope to achieve by having every project have an advisory board? I think you essentially
I did answer that. Yeah.
Okay. And then is there any preference for or against grants that have already received internal funds to forge a team? For example, if somebody's got an INI research program grant, can they submit applications to this program? I would say yes. I think what we're really trying to do is help you be successful. And if this is the next stage in your effort to help you be successful and put together a competitive grant application, I don't think there's any reason to not put in. So if you've already received internal funding, you're still eligible to apply to this mechanism.
Next one I see is phase one, just for building the team. What kind of expenses are allowed? Remember, phase one is just $10,000, and we expect most of that money will go towards your external advisory board. If you have 3 to 5 people coming to visit Iowa City, let's say for a 1.5 day meeting, that's going to cost a good bit of the $10,000. So that's where we expect most of the phase one money would go, is for the external advisory board and kind of forming your team, creating the ideas over the course of about 8 months, and then submitting a phase two proposal next fall. The next one I see is mentoring allowed on these grants. Yes, I'm not sure exactly what you're picturing. This is not designed to be a training or teaching grant. In most cases, it's designed to be a research grant, a multidisciplinary research grant. Could mentoring form a part of that? Absolutely. That's part of research. Would students be involved in this? Yes. Would postdocs, other trainees be involved in this? I think in most cases, yes. So mentoring is part of it, but the focus is research, not teaching and training.
Somewhat different, but almost related question. There's one about, can a postdoc apply to this grant with a PI? Yes, but I think to David's point earlier about, can assistant professors apply to these? They can, but who would be winning these large center type grants? Would a postdoc be the most eligible and competitive person for putting in a large center grant? Likely not. So just kind of think about that as you're thinking about who should be the PI of these proposals.
Next one I see, do you think it is a good idea to have a senior and a junior faculty on a multi-PI grant? That's one good model. Absolutely. Is that the only model? No. I've seen large grants like this won by 2 mid-level people. I've seen them won by a senior and a junior person. I've seen them won by 2 senior people. So yes, absolutely. That's one good model. Probably not the only model though.
And so there's a question about how a course buyout or summer support would allow a PI to really step up and lead an effort. Again, we said that faculty salary is discouraged. However, we leave it up to you to kind of propose what you need and to really justify it. So if you really believe that a course buyout or summer salary is going to allow you to really win this grant, put in a proposal and justify very strongly about why you believe that, and we will consider it. But the expectation is that faculty salary is not going to be funded, but it's up to you to really tell us why you might need it.
One more just came in. What is the ideal team size or range of what this might look like? How many PIs versus collaborators? That's going to vary a lot across disciplines. So I would look to some extent at your discipline, at the type of grant you might apply for and what they look like currently at other institutions or here. But with that said, I think 1 PI is common. 2 PIs is certainly feasible. How many collaborators? I would think typically you're going to have at least 3 or 4. You might submit with 2 or 3, expecting to grow the team during phase one. It would not be unheard of to have 10 or 12 collaborators or even more than that on a large center grant. And you likely will grow your team over the course of phase 1 and 2, and in some cases up to 12, 15 even collaborators, depending on the size and scope of what you're proposing.
Another question came in. How much risk do you think people consider taking for a phase 1 proposal? Is there an element of discovery and vision in the structure? Yes. We anticipate that there would be risk. I think the only caveat is, does that risk allow you to successfully compete for a funding mechanism out there? Because you're going to have to be able to identify a target for you. So if this risk really allows you to go after that, yeah, we're open to risky proposals, and we expect not all of them are going to succeed. But we're really trying to set you up for success here.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. This mechanism, especially phase 1, it's about risk taking, entrepreneurship, innovation. That's really, in many cases, the way to win grants. And so we are encouraging, risk maybe has a little bit of a negative connotation, but we're encouraging innovation and creativity, to be certain. The next question that came in for phase 1, just travel and compensation for external advisors are allowed. Anything you justify is allowed that is legal and legal with university, federal, state guidelines. So if you have good justification for a student, a postdoc to help organize external advisors, to whatever you think you need to be successful in phase 1, we are open to it. As I said at the beginning, we want to facilitate success here. Our goal is to be part of the team and to facilitate your success in research and scholarship. So we're not going to be a barrier. Obviously, we have to follow university policies with spending. We have to follow federal policies with spending. But if you can justify expenses, we will allow them. Can performing experiments be part of phase 1? They can. Not our vision, not typical, but if you can justify the reason for it, absolutely, that would be fine. Well, it looks like we've answered 45 questions and dismissed 5 comments that I think were repetitive. Maybe we can wait just a minute or two to see if anything else trickles in before the hour closes, Aaron.
Sounds great. I think we scheduled this for 45 minutes, but it's exciting to see everybody's energy and excitement for this program. So I'm happy to stick around for a few more minutes and answer any questions that folks have.
Yeah, I didn't realize. So, well, why don't we close it out? We are at the 45 minutes, and I will thank everyone also. Terrific questions, terrific exchange. We are happy to answer additional questions by email and Zoom meetings. Aaron probably and the RDO will be your first contact, but I will be consulted, and I'm happy to answer questions also. And I will stay on the Zoom for the next 10 minutes if anyone has anything else they want to do in this format.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, David.